Mr. Bolton, you've been the US's national security advisor, worked very closely as NSA under Donald Trump, though if I saw a bit of criticism, mild criticism in your previous answer to even the policies of Donald Trump, I won't go back and ask you how you would have dealt with it had you been NSA now. But now to the critical issue, Mr. Bolton, which I saw your recent piece on how the time for equivocating about a nuclear-armed, Taliban-friendly Pakistan is over. Mr. Bolton, we've been saying here in India for a long time, and I'm sure you've heard it in your various interactions while being NSA with the Indian government as well, that the real problem is Pakistan. The problem has been that whenever we've spoken about Pakistan giving sanctuary, it's been dismissed, almost as if the terrorist groups in Pakistan don't need to be looked at with detail as long as they don't operate in Afghanistan. And as you have seen, Mr. Bolton, in the last few months and years, increasingly all these groups are mixed up. The Jaish-e-Mohammed under Hafiz Saeed provides manpower to the ISIS-K. The Pakistan ISI gives $200 million of aid which it receives from the West and from China. It hands it over to the ISIS-K. The Jaish-e-Mohammed, the Hizbul Mujahideen, the ISIS Khorasan province, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, they're all mixed up. We hold a basic view, Mr. Bolton, that unless America understands that these groups are all thick as thieves, that they may have short-term differences, but they have a long-term agreement. They're all fanatic groups. They all carry out beheadings and suicide bombings. Unless America realizes that, America will pay and the world will pay. But it is also the responsibility, Mr. Bolton, of influential people like you to make the Biden government realize it. Is that happening in Washington?
Well, look, the United States has made a number of mistakes over the years in its understanding of what Pakistan's role has been, going back to funneling much of our aid to the Afghan Mujahideen, opposing the Soviet Union during their occupation, funneling that through the Inter-Services Intelligence operation, turning over really control of how that assistance was delivered. And for many years after 9/11, notwithstanding our concern about Pakistan's development of nuclear weapons, because of our need for logistical support in Afghanistan, because of our fear that Pakistan itself would fall under the control of one or another terrorist group and those nuclear weapons would come into terrorist hands, we've gritted our teeth and tried to deal with Pakistan on an equal basis. And I heard long ago, and I have to acknowledge we should have acted on it earlier, but an expert on Pakistan once said they were the only government he knew that consisted simultaneously of arsonists and firefighters. And I think now the U.S. has to put it to Pakistan very directly. Either we see an end to this support for terrorism, or we're going to have a very different relationship. We've tried hard, because of the risks posed by a nuclear Pakistan, to give them some slack. But we don't need their logistical support in Afghanistan anymore because we're not there. And the support that ISI does give to terrorist groups across the board, and we've seen that in attacks on India right after our own 9/11 and many others that you're aware of, that this is simply not acceptable. And the ultimate threat of the nuclear weapons falling into terrorist hands is something we will not accept.